Recently, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner carrying 242 people was involved in a catastrophic accident. It crashed and exploded just minutes after takeoff. Most passengers and crew members did not survive. But what has truly sent chills down the spines of aviation experts isn't just the crash itself, it's the harrowing possibility that this tragedy was, in part, orchestrated by Boeing itself. First introduced in 2011, the Boeing 787 was once hailed as a proud symbol of modern aviation. At its official debut, the aircraft was lavishly praised as the dream of humanity, lighter, quieter, and far more intelligent than any commercial airplane that had come before it. Yet that dream has since shattered in ways no one anticipated. Again and again, technical faults surfaced, safety warnings were overlooked, and aviation disasters gradually replaced the early hope with a deep and lasting disappointment. More alarming still are the recent revelations from independent aviation specialists, which have cast an even darker shadow over the story. Hidden mechanical flaws embedded deep within the body of the Boeing 787, according to their assessment, could very well be a ticking time bomb, silently threatening the safety of the entire global aviation industry. Could this be the very reason why airplane crashes have become increasingly common in recent times? The answer is still waiting to be uncovered. From dream to nightmare. Once celebrated as a revolution in modern air travel, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner made its debut with a bold proclamation to completely redefine the flying experience of the 21st century. From the design stage, this aircraft left a strong impression thanks to a series of innovations aimed at passenger comfort and well-being. Its advanced pressurization system maintained cabin pressure at levels equivalent to an altitude of around 6.0 feet, significantly lower than conventional standards, thereby reducing fatigue and headaches often experienced on long-haul flights. Cabin humidity was also substantially increased to help minimize dry eyes and skin, two common nuisances during intercontinental travel. Additionally, the Dreamliner's windows were approximately 30% larger than those on traditional aircraft and featured automatic dimming technology, allowing passengers to control lighting at the touch of a button, eliminating the inconvenience of conventional pull-down shades entirely. And it didn't stop there. A state-of-the-art aerodynamic design, paired with ultra-quiet engines, turned the cabin into an astonishingly peaceful space, providing a smooth, tranquil experience rarely found in commercial air travel. These innovations not only won praise from passengers but were also celebrated as a major breakthrough, setting new global standards for the aviation industry. However, what caught the attention of engineers and experts was a bold technical shift in the aircraft's construction. The Boeing 787 was the first commercial airliner in the world to be built primarily using carbon fiber composite materials instead of traditional aluminum alloys. This material was lighter, stronger, and more fuel-efficient, a promise of unprecedented optimization in both performance and cost. For that reason, the Dreamliner was once seen as the beginning of a new era. But over time, that dream began to crack. And most disturbing of valor, the secrets now emerging from beneath what once appeared to be a flawless carbon shell. A once unshakable system now at the center of doubt. In March 2025, the United States Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, unexpectedly issued an emergency directive, ordering a global inspection of the Boeing 787 fleet. The focus: the aircraft's forward pressure bulkhead, a critical structure that helps maintain cabin stability at cruising altitudes of tens of thousands of feet. The reason? A series of serious technical defects believed to have originated directly on the assembly line. Substandard gaps, misaligned rivets, and multiple parts that deviated from the original design specifications. While these flaws had not yet caused any disasters, FAA assessments concluded that they could silently accumulate over time, leading to structural cracks, metal corrosion, and under the worst-case scenario, catastrophic pressure failure mid-air. What unsettled experts even more was the fact that this wasn't the first time the Dreamliner had faced such warnings. Since 2020, Boeing had repeatedly halted Dreamliner deliveries due to technical issues in the fuselage, joining processes zone, subjected to immense physical stress. More than 120 aircraft were diverted to special maintenance facilities, away from the main factory system, and out of the public eye. Within engineering circles, that site was known by a chilling name, the Dark Factory. Rewind to 2013. The entire 787 fleet was once grounded due to a spate of lithium-ion battery fires. It was the first commercial aircraft to use this battery type, aiming to cut weight and improve efficiency. But the outcome was a series of onboard battery compartment fire sand with it, a wake-up call across the industry about the price of technological breakthroughs. What was once a beacon of innovation, the Boeing 787 is now becoming a cautionary tale of how overconfidence can lead to critical oversight. And adding even more pressure is a growing question echoing within both the technical community and public discourse. Could it be that Boeing's once world-renowned quality control system is rotting from the inside? And that's not where it ends. In a quietly posted FAA bulletin, a new warning sent fresh shockwaves through the aviation world. The VHF communication system onboard the Boeing 787 could automatically switch between standby and active mode without any manual input from the flight crew. Put bluntly, pilots could lose contact with air traffic control at the very moment communication is needed most. A chilling comment was left by a user on the FAA's own website. Given their track record of prioritizing profits over safety, I'd rather walk than step onto a Boeing plane. Even Qatar Airways, one of Boeing's most loyal and prominent clients, was forced to publicly admit that the signal loss issue continued, despite installing the software updates exactly as directed by the FAA. So, what exactly is happening inside Boeing? How could a manufacturer once considered infallible continue to let mistakes slip, through mistakes that should have never existed in the first place? A symbol melting, beneath the weight of suspicion. What truly pushed a giant like Boeing to the brink of a trust crisis? Many experts believe the earthquake didn't begin with a single technical flaw but with a corporate decision made 3 decades ago, one that appeared strategic at the time, but slowly and silently rewrote the company's DNA. In the 1990s, Boeing began a transformation. Veteran engineer sons, the soul of every design, were gradually replaced by finance executives and investors from Wall Street. The engineering-driven model, rooted in aerospace vision, was overtaken by a profit-centered structure, where shareholder value became the guiding principle. From there, the once taboo concept of technical risk acceptance started creeping into the production strategy. Internal warnings were ignored, quality control procedures were shortened, and the pressure to meet delivery targets slowly eroded engineering standards. When the FAA issues a directive, when structural misalignments are uncovered, when an aircraft fails mid-flight, the public response is no longer shock, but confrontation. Who is Boeing gambling with this time? What was once a source of pride of trust has now become its most fragile asset. Faced with a chain of mounting failures, the FAA was forced to intervene more deeply. Production rates were placed under strict oversight. Airlines were ordered to perform additional inspections on hundreds of operational 787s. Meanwhile, carriers already financially crippled from the COVID-19 pandemic were burdened with repair costs, delays, and brand damage in the eyes of passengers. Many chose to remain silent. Quietly, they began shifting orders to Airbus. The A350, Europe's rival to the Dreamliner, now emerging as the safer, more trustworthy alternative and without the baggage of controversy. As loyal customers began backing away, Boeing found itself facing not just a technical crisis, but an existential one, where the very reason for the company's existence was being questioned. Public outrage soared. The U.S. Congress summoned Boeing's leadership for a high-profile hearing that stretched for hours. Under the harsh white lights of the Capitol chamber, lawmakers fired pointed questions that gripped viewers across the nation. Why were these critical errors repeated over and over? Why were internal engineers silenced? And does Boeing still deserve to be at the heart of the global aviation industry? The image of Boeingus, the hallmark of American technological prowess now, resembles a massive machine derailed. Key decisions are no longer made by engineers, but buried in balance sheets. By the end of 2024, CEO Dave Calhoun announced his resignation. It was seen as a signal for cultural reset inside the company. But to many, it felt like a belated gesturean, implicit admission that past warnings had been ignored for far too long. Stock prices fluctuated, trust wavered. Major airlines began reassessing their long-term procurement contracts. Boeing Gaunt's, the industry's torchbearer, is now teetering between rebirth and collapse. What once made the Dreamliner a dream, from its carbon fiber frame to its whisper, quiet cabinis now obscured behind a fog of doubt. And in that moment of silence before takeoff, when the floor lights blink and the engines roar behind your back, a quiet question lingers in the mind of the passenger by the window. Is something being hidden right beneath my feet? A once unshakable system, now the center of global suspicion. In March 2025, the United States Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, unexpectedly issued an emergency directive demanding that all Boeing 787 aircraft worldwide undergo immediate inspection of a crucial structural component, the forward pressure bulkhead, a key element responsible for maintaining cabin stability at cruising altitudes of tens of thousands of feet. The cause? A sequence of severe technical defects believed to have originated directly from the assembly line. Gaps that failed to meet specifications, misaligned rivets, and a series of components that did not match the original design parameters. Although these flaws had not yet led to catastrophe, the FAA warned that they could gradually accumulate over time, resulting in structural cracks, metal corrosion, and, in the worst-case scenario, a catastrophic decompression mid-flight. What shocked aviation experts even more was the realization that this was not the first time the 787 had come under such alarming scrutiny. Since 2020, Boeing had repeatedly been forced to suspend deliveries of the Dreamliner due to technical issues with fuselage joining a critical stress-bearing area. More than 120 aircraft were sent to special maintenance centers outside the company's main factory network locations, with no media access. Among engineers, this off-limits facility was known by a spine-chilling name: the Shadow Plant. Rewind to 2013, the entire 787 fleet was once grounded after a series of lithium-ion battery fires. Boeing was the first to use this type of battery in commercial aircraft, aiming to reduce weight and improve efficiency. Instead, battery compartments ignited across multiple aircraft, forcing the entire industry to reconsider what it truly meant to pursue technological breakthroughs. From a symbol of progress, the Boeing 787 has slowly transformed into a textbook case of errors rooted in overconfidence. And what adds even more tension is the rising question echoing among engineers and the public alike. Could Boeing's once glorified global standard of quality control now be silently rotting from within? And the revelations didn't stop there. In a quietly released FAA bulletin, a new warning once again shook the industry. The VHF communication system on the Boeing 787 could automatically switch between standby and active modes without any action by the flight crew. Put bluntly, pilots might lose connection with air traffic control in the most critical moments of flight. A chilling comment appeared on the FAA's own website. With a history of putting profits above safety, I'd rather walk than board a Boeing. Even Qatar Airways, one of Boeing's largest and most loyal clients, publicly admitted that the signal loss issue continued, despite software updates being applied exactly as FAA instructed. So what is really going on inside Boeing? How could a company once considered infallible allow errors that should never exist to persist repeatedly? A symbol, slowly, melting under the heat of doubt. What truly pushed a giant like Boeing to the edge of a trust crisis? Many experts believe the earthquake didn't start with any one defect, but with a strategic restructuring decision made 3 decades ago. A decision that, while seemingly tactical at the time, quietly altered the very DNA of the company. In the 1990s, Boeing began to transform. Veteran engineer Sans, the heartbeat of every design, were gradually replaced by financial executives and investors from Wall Street. The engineering-based model rooted in aviation vision gave way to a profit-first approach, where shareholder metrics became the guiding light. From that moment on, the once taboo notion of accepting technical risk was woven into the fabric of production strategy. Internal warnings were brushed aside, inspection processes were shortened, and the pressure to deliver shifted technical standards inch by inch. So when the FAA issued a directive, or a structural misalignment was uncovered, or a plane malfunctioned mid-air, The public's reaction was no longer sympathy but confrontation. Whose lives is Boeing gambling with now? What was once pretty and trusted has become the most fragile of all assets. In response to the string of failures, the FAA stepped in with deeper intervention. Production rates were tightly regulated. Airlines were ordered to conduct additional inspections on hundreds of 787s in operation. Meanwhile, carriers already financially drained from the COVID-19 pandemic faced the burden of repair costs, delays, and reputational damage with passengers. Many opted for a quiet solution, silently shifting orders to Airbus. The A350 Dreamliner's European rival was now emerging as a safer, more reliable, and scandal-free choice. As longtime clients began to pull away, Boeing found itself facing not just a technical breakdown, but an existential crisis, where the very reason for its existence came under scrutiny. Public outrage swelled. The United States Congress summoned Boeing's top executives to a marathon public hearing. Beneath the harsh white lights of the hearing room, lawmakers unleashed questions that held viewers in rapt attention. Why were such critical errors allowed to repeat? Why were internal engineers ignored? And does Boeing still deserve to sit at the center of global aviation? The image of Boeing, a symbol of American technological might now, resembles a massive machine that has veered off track. Major decisions are no longer shaped by engineers, but buried deep inside balance sheets. By the end of 2024, CEO Dave Calhoun announced he would step down. The announcement was framed as a cultural reset within the company. But to many, it felt like a belated attempt to pacify an indirect admission that the warnings of the past had been ignored far too long. Stock prices wavered. Confidence crumbled. Major airlines began reconsidering their long-term procurement contracts. Boeing Aviation's guiding star is now teetering between rebirth and ruin. The very elements that once made the Dreamliner a dream, from its carbon fiber structure to its serene cabin air, now obscured by a fog of suspicion. And in that hushed moment just before takeoff, when the cabin lights flicker and the engines roar to life behind you, a quiet question whispers into the mind of the passenger seated by the window. Is something being hidden just beneath my feet?